Hello, Brigadier TPS Chaudhary. In the 1980s, you had organized the first Indian sailing expedition around the world in yacht Trishna. How did you conceive this idea, and what made you undertake this journey?
Well, we have been sailing, all the crew members who are on board, right from the NDA days, and also after the hobbies of sailing in NDA, in the Khadakwasta Lake, we sailed in River Mula in the College of Military Engineering while doing our various courses. So sailing in the rivers and lakes and oceans was a thing which we've been doing right from the beginning. And as far as the ocean sailing is concerned, we, in our degree course days, sailed from Bombay to Goa and back, Bombay to Cochin, Bombay to Bandar Abbas in Iran and back, and also from Chennai to uh, Port Blair, one way only. So we said we must do something which no Indian has done before. And this was, we came to the conclusion, let's do something from where we buy the boat and come to India, and also something which will enlighten us and which was sailing around the world in a yacht, which no Indian had done.
What was the composition of your team members?
Well, we chose the team members from the oldest being myself as a lieutenant colonel, and that time around 42 years of age, and we chose the youngest one, a second lieutenant who later promoted to a lieutenant, and so that we have all ranks, lieutenant colonel, majors, captains and lieutenant, so that our sailing can carry on. Even if I retire or the majors retire, the captains and the lieutenant can carry on.
Did you have any GPS, satellite phones, or mobile phones with you during the journey?
Unfortunately, we were not that lucky to have all this luxurious equipment which are now available these days. We used the good old sextant, and which was being used by the ancient mariners also. And we used to shoot the rising sun, rising moon, and the setting sun and the setting moon. And we should also navigate by the stars. So we really did misfire sometimes when the boat was rocking and we had to plot a position which was giving us a wrong position. But we, however, managed it. And but nowadays, with the GPS and with the mobile phone, with the satellite navigators, it's a much easier process, although the weather pattern, of course, remains almost the same.
Why did you select yacht Trishna?
Well, we selected yacht Trishna because the boats available in India were not ocean going or say crossing big oceans. We had the seabird class of boats available in Bombay, which could go along the coastline and sail in the harbors, but sailing them across the Indian Ocean or the Pacific or the Atlantic would have been a gigantic task. Furthermore, they did not have a cabin, and we had to improvise our own cabin and toilet arrangements and everything when we were doing the trip to Bandar Abbas, to Cochin, to Goa and to Port Blair.
What route did you undertake and why?
Well, first of all, we selected the time of departure, which was 28 September 1985, so that the monsoons finish off and the bad weather of the monsoon we don't encounter. However, we did encounter the last remnants of the monsoons near Cochin, and we ran into quite a big storm which tore our sails and also damaged our rudder a bit. So we had to halt in Cochin to repair the sails and the rudder. Thereafter, we went across and we had rough weather in Mauritius area and a terrible weather in the around the Cape of Good Hope, which is also called the Cape of Storms. And then we went on to the West Indies where we had some bad weather, And then we went on to near the Nukuhiva and Polynesian Islands for bad weather. And the actual cyclone we encountered was sailing in the Tasman Sea from Auckland to Sydney. And that cyclone came suddenly from south of Australia, surged around, hit Melbourne, hit Sydney, and then hit our boat. And we were caught after 15 days of good sailing in this eye of the cyclone, which dragged us 350 kilometers off course. And it was quite a task getting out of the cyclone after we had said our last prayers a couple of times to God. Thereafter, we had a little bit of bad weather near Indonesia and near the Andaman Islands and near Sri Lanka. The route which we took was, this is Bombay, 28th September 85 we took off. We came on to Cochin, then to Maldives. From Maldives we came to Mauritius. Then we went around the Cape of Good Hope. We did not touch South Africa because that time our relations with South Africa and India were not too good. Thereafter we went on to St. Helena, where Napoleon was imprisoned, on to Ascension Islands, where America was carrying out moon landing trials, on to Brazil, Natal and Belém, went on to Georgetown, Barbados, then Jamaica, and then we were to go to Miami, but then a big storm was going on in the Gulf of Mexico. So we diverted to Panama, where we halted and then repaired a yacht, removed all the barnacles, and then thereafter went on to Galapagos Islands. Galapagos Islands, where Charles Darwin had propounded his theory of evolution, and Galapagos Islands, which was one of our best halts, which had cold weather climate at the equator from the southern side, coming here's Antarctica, and from here the cold Peru current came and hit Galapagos Islands. So we had seen even penguins, small penguins at that equator, which was very unusual. We also came across the hot equatorial type of climate, vegetation and animals. We came across ugly looking creatures called the iguanas, the marine iguana and the land iguana. And we came across a pilot which had been shot down in the World War II, and he couldn't get out of the island, and he decided to spend the rest of his life at those islands. From Galapagos, we went on to French Polynesian Island, Marquesas Islands, where no Indian had ever been, and they had never seen a Sardar before. From there we went on to Tahiti by the French, and that was again a very good halt of ours. And from there we went on to Bora Bora and Muria, two beautiful islands. And they told us these are the world's most beautiful islands. But then we told them that you haven't visited our islands of Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep, and you'll find what a contrast it is to these. Thereafter, we went on to Rarotonga, and then coming on to Fiji, on to Auckland. At Auckland, we checked our boat because it was a long haul and the weather was likely to be bad, but we checked up the weather pattern and 15 days of good weather was definitely forecast, and then we crossed over to Sydney. But in the middle, a cyclone coming from here, as I mentioned earlier, hit us and took us towards the Solomon Islands. We then came to Brisbane, and along the Great Barrier Reef, which was exquisite seeing, we came on to Thursday Island on the tip of Australia, and then on to Darwin. We had then reasonably good weather, but it turned a little bad towards Jakarta and on to Singapore. From Singapore, we came on to Malaysia, and then on to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where we halted at Nicobar, and we touched Indian soil after 14 months of sailing. From there we went on to Colombo and then on to Bombay and returned on 10th of January 1987 after 470 days of sailing and 30,000 nautical miles, or you can say about 54,000 kilometers.
Which was your most difficult part of the journey?
Well, our most difficult part was sailing here between Auckland in New Zealand and Sydney, where we encountered this cyclone I had mentioned, and we had a tough time with wind speed from 140 kilometers per hour to 170 kilometers per hour, and also waves about 40 to 60 feet high. And we were really going up to 60 feet, coming down with half the boat underwater, and then coming up again. Our cockpit, all those was full of water. We were bailing out manually from cabin inside because we didn't have auto bailers. And then thereafter, thank God, it softened down and we got out of the eye of the cyclone and came and sailed to Sydney, where we had to repair our sails, repair our boat, and our crew members had a tough time. One of them was handicapped, had an artificial leg, and with the leg broke. Incidentally, our crew members, I was the team leader and also the team manager and the crew member. We had Major K.S. Rao as the skipper of the boat, Trishna. We had Major A.K. Singh, who broke his leg while doing hang gliding and had an artificial leg and was the first handicapped sailor to sail around the world in a yacht. We had also Major A. Bhattacharya. We had Major A.P. Singh, Major S.N. Mathur, Captain Rakesh Bassi, Captain Chandrahas Bharti, Captain Sanjeev Shekhar, and Lieutenant Naveen Ahuja. While sailing from UK to India, we had a crew of 7 members, and in which Major S.M. Pillai, Major M.S. Pillai also was with us, but being an international sailor, he did not take part in the main round the world cruise. However, our team of 7 UK to Bombay and team of 10 sailing around the world.
What lessons were brought out after completing the voyage around the world?
Well, I would say the biggest lesson we learned was that where there is a will, there is a way. And if you want to do a particular thing and all the team unites together, then you can do anything and overcome all the disasters or any bad scenario which you're encountering. We thought that we might have to call it off. It took us 4 years to get the sanction from the government and 470 days sailing around. And UK to Bombay portion, which again was the first to be done by any Indian, it took us almost about 4 months. So almost 2 years on the sea, you can say, we've been doing it. And so that was the biggest lesson I think people can learn from that. Plus that any hobby which you undertake, you can master it and perfect it, and then you can reach the top.
What message would you now like to give to the young Bombay sappers and the other defense enthusiasts?
Well, I would like to tell the youngsters of our country and the Bombay sappers also that if you want an adventurous life and if you want to do sports, if you want to do anything which is unusual, which you don't get an opportunity as a civilian, join the armed forces, join the Army, Navy, Air Force, and you will get all the excitement there. You want to go to Antarctica, you want to go to North Pole, South Pole, any adventure thing like hang gliding, you want to do parasailing, you want to do anything you like, you can do it in the armed forces. So join the armed forces and you will be a better man and a full man.